as we discuss what Sam Amick had to say on the Plus or Minus podcast. He says, my understanding, and this came out yesterday, my understanding is the Warriors weren't interested in Carter or DeRozan. As of a couple weeks ago, the Kings weren't willing to pay Kuminga in the $20 million range, talking about $20 million a year. Okay, so hang with me here as we try to piece along this kind of trail of crumbs based on what Anthony Slater said when he spoke on it on Friday. Kuminga and the Kings met in the last couple days, so I'm assuming last week, and it went well. So my assumption is either something must have changed with the offer from a couple weeks ago, which is what Sam Amick is referring to, and the Kings got to $20 million a year, or he's willing to take less than $20 million a year just to get out of Golden State and be in a better situation. I don't think that's the case. Not right now. I don't believe that to be the case because he clearly wants his money. Now, how this connects with what Slater and Shams saying is they are saying that the Suns offered the most, which came out to 22 and a half. So Sam Amick saying that the Kings weren't at 20, and them reporting, the ESPN crew reporting that the Suns had the most lucrative offer. Kings weren't getting to 20 million AAV. The Kings may have gotten just shy of it, or maybe it could have still went well. And they said, hey, we're at 18 or 19, but it's going to be your team. Maybe after Sam, the last update Sam had was that maybe during that meeting, and this is how I'm understanding the timeline, maybe during that meeting, they did get to 20 and they said, you will be a featured player on this team.
Or maybe it's at 18, but it's better than the Warriors, but not as good as the Suns.
Exactly. Right. Warriors are paying you a little bit more. We have a longer deal with more guaranteed, and it's more of an investment in you. The Warriors are paying you this money in hopes to obviously move you and just be done with it. So those are kind of the notes from what Sam Amick said on the Plus or Minus pod from the Jason Anderson side of things. And he just dropped an article on the Sacramento Bee. Go check that out this morning. He says, quote, the Warriors would probably be quick to pull the trigger on a deal involving Keegan Murray or Keon Ellis. However, a source with knowledge of trade conversations told the Sacramento Bee that Murray and Ellis have not been discussed and both are considered off limits in talks for Kuminga. So where this lands and where this ends, and my thought process is that the Kings have said, we're kind of done here. We know what it is. We know what you want. We know what Kuminga wants, and this is what we want. We don't need to. There are reports that Kuminga don't like the coach. There are reports that Kuminga be leaving y'all on red. There are reports that just a reality, not even reports. You guys are in a tough spot, whether it's now in December or in January. You're in no position to tell us that we need, especially when we offered to give you a protected first, you are in no position to tell us that we need to move off of a Keon Ellis to help you, right? This has kind of turned into a, not necessarily how much the Kings want Kuminga. It's more so turned into how much competition will there be at any point to acquire Kuminga. You let his agent tell it, there's going to be teams lining up at the end of the season to sign him for $25 million. I don't know how many teams are really going to be interested like that. And it's completely fine for the Kings to be interested in him like that. But if that's the case, and the Kings, move on from DeMar DeRozan or whatever it is, and they can slot in that money, there's no reason for them to move on from definitely not Keegan Murray, but not even Keon Ellis when they can probably get hit. They're going to have another chance to acquire him, whether that's in December, whether that's in January, whether that's once this season ends. If there were seven, the Warriors, that's the leverage conversation. If there were 7 other teams fighting in this sign and trade, then I'd say, hey, go get your guy. And if it costs you Keon Ellis, fine. That's what we talked about last week. But now with everything that's come out and with the Warriors saying, well, we're just going to leave the table and he's going to have to sign one of these deals. That's cool. We can rehash these conversations in December or January, and we all are still going to know that he wants to leave.
Well, not only that he's going to want to leave, but also if he accepts the qualifying offer, you risk losing him for nothing if you don't trade him at that deadline, and the deal gets more complicated because he only will be an $8 million cap hit and matching salaries and all the boring stuff like that. But the more this goes on, the more I think that maybe not accepting the qualifying offer is the best way to go, but taking a 1-year deal of some kind might just be the best option for Kuminga at this point, because this whole situation is messy with the Warriors. The Warriors are insisting we would rather just bring you back than take a 70 cents on the dollar trade deal, which, again, the Sacramento Kings had that same calculation with De'Aaron Fox, and they chose to just take the subpar offer, and it set them back. Now, obviously, Kuminga is not the same stakes as De'Aaron Fox in terms of how your season is going to go and how your organization is going to fare. But usually, even if it's a role player, even if a guy is like, I don't want to come back, and the coach is like, I don't really want this player back, normally don't you just say, hey, we're going to cut our losses and move on? Because like we were talking about, when has this happened before? When it was DeAndre Ayton with the Suns, Phoenix brought him back, even though he hated Monty Williams and he hated being in Phoenix. They paid him $36 million a year to come back, and within a year he was traded and Monty Williams was fired. Right? Like the whole situation has just gotten to a point where it's like, why would you even want to have him then come back into this locker room when he's just delayed the entire offseason? Horford's probably pissed. Melton's probably pissed. I don't know how Draymond Green is going to take it if hasn't he been on a podcast saying like these young guys don't understand the CBA or something?
Yeah.
It's just going to be messy even after they get their way.
Right. And that is the final piece to this. Now, the Warriors cannot make, unless I guess they remove the team option, the Warriors can't make Kuminga sign the short-term deal. They could say, fine, we'll get rid of the team option, but it seems like they don't want to do that. And he still has that qualifying offer. If he thinks, I don't think you guys are going to play me very much anyway, I'll just take the qualifying offer and take my chances on the open market. I still don't think he's getting, I saw a report yesterday, all 3 dudes, I think they even threw Cam Thomas in there, Giddey, Kuminga, and I think it was Cam Thomas. All the restricted free agents are expecting $30 million a year. Yes, so am I on my next contract here at Sactown Sports 140. I am also expecting $30 million a year. Am I going to get it? Most likely not. So I don't know who is talking to these guys and trying to gas them up, but this is just not reality. I think a good point is that Giddey will have to play. So Giddey has a different level of leverage than Jonathan Kuminga, where Jonathan Kuminga could play, but Steve Kerr hates him, so he's not going to play. And maybe he looks at that 7.9. My issue with the 7.9 is, I guess, is it more so about I don't think that taking the qualifying offer is about AAV as much as it's about guaranteed money. Because I don't see you taking the qualifying offer and how that sends you on a better path to $30 million a year. I don't see that. It will get you a longer contract instead of the stupid short-term Warriors deal that you don't want. But I don't see how sitting and not playing on the Warriors, somebody's going to say, Now, since you're unrestricted, we'll give you $30 million a year. I don't see how that happens.
I don't know if it's even sitting and not playing for the Warriors for the whole year. I think it's more so, can he just get to December 15th, right? Can I just make it to when I can be traded and it's easier for the Warriors? Can I just get there without my value completely falling off the table, right?
What, on the qualifying offer?
Whatever deal he signs,
right?
And honestly, the ESPN story saying that the Warriors are essentially only offering him $21 million in guaranteed money for next year kind of makes me think it's not the worst idea in the world to take the qualifying offer, only because you just need a team on December 15th to still want
And you know what? Maybe apologies need to be had to those Warrior fans out there that said, take the qualifying offer because you're not missing out on that much money. When we were reading this report and Brett Siegel wasn't reporting on an actual deal, he was just saying, these are the paths. We were assuming at that time that it was 2 years, $40 million guaranteed. If that second season is a team option, now that math that the Warriors fan was doing wasn't as crazy.
No, let's just put it in layman's terms, okay? If it's I'm just trying to make sure I have the number right that Slater had. It was what, 22.5 in the it was 21.6 in the first year.
Yes.
If it's 21 points, if it's a 21.6 in the first year and a $24 million team option for year 2, that's a 1-year contract, because the Warriors are not, even if they wanted to keep Kuminga and they worked it out, the Warriors are still declining that 1-year $24 million team option. So it's essentially a 1-year $21 million offer from the Warriors, which, if I'm Kuminga, the full no trade clause and the ability to hit unrestricted free agency in 2026 might be worth turning down $14 million.
Hey, they what did they know? What did this person know?
What did the guy who said $8 million is basically $10 million?
Yeah, no, $8 million is basically $20 million. What did he know?
Yeah, so I guess if I'm doing quick maths, 21.6 minus 7.9 is 13.7. Sure. $13 million. $13 to $14 million is what you would have to say no to.
And giving up that control.
But in exchange, you would get full no trade clause, ability to be an unrestricted free agent after next season. I would, again, he just has to get to December 15th with Phoenix or Sacramento or some other team that still wants to pay him $90 million.
Right. But at that same time, in the season, it's now December. The Kings, if they wanted to, because he would be on it would be $7 million. He accepts the deal for the King. The Kings would have to then still move AP. It would still be a little murky.
You would be able to do it without trading Malik.
DeMar would have to go.
No, because if he's only at 7.9, you just have to match salaries at 7.9. The problem would be
after the season.
Yeah, after the season, because then you would have not just him on a new contract, you'd have Keegan on a new contract. So either you got to move DeMar or you got to move Malik.
Sure, so you can finish out this season, and then after that,
we'll figure out later.
Right. And DeMar, the whole thing, not to get too in the weeds, I was doing a lot of reading yesterday on the DeMar thing, because I'm not sure how DeMar hits the cap, because that 24 isn't guaranteed, only 10 is.
It's 10 until
January 10th. So they'd have to move off of DeMar before then.
And move off would be either trade him to another team and that team has to make the decision, or they just say, we'll buy you out at $10 million.
Exactly.
Give us back $6. You can go sign with whoever you want kind of situation.
So that would open, and maybe at that point, that's the scary thing. Going back to the Keon Ellis, here's an interesting thought process. And I'm not saying 209 is saying moving Ellis for Kuminga, I can justify. Murray would be the worst move since passing on Luka, and I'm not even that high on Keegan. I'm not saying you have to include Ellis, but I think how the Kings approach things changes if it's Kuminga at $7 million versus if he does take the 2-year option or the 2-year deal with the option after the first, because that would change the Kings books this season. So if you're Kuminga to that point, you're probably going to go with the qualifying offer because you know that. You know, hey, teams like the Kings are going to be strapped if I take this extra 13 mil because they're going to have to move more. If I just take the qualifying offer, they get me into the building and the Kings can say, hey, DeMar and his time, it's all going to figure itself out at the end of this season. So the more that we kind of talk about this, the more Kuminga gives himself the most flexibility, even without having to wait. If he just takes and whether it's December or January, if he just takes the qualifying offer, because more teams and maybe another team gets into the mix too, if he's at $7 million versus, okay, I don't have 21 right now. Now we have to move Malik or now we have to move whoever it is this season because he's getting paid that now.
Yes, but the problem for Sacramento, and there's ways to navigate it, but like, let's say they want to bring in Kuminga. They extend Keegan, which we think will happen before training camp, and they extend Keon Ellis. Can they afford, come 2027, with a team that might miss the playoffs, to lock themselves into LaVine at 48, Sabonis at 45, Monk at 20.1, Keon potentially at 20, Keegan at 24, and Kuminga at 24, right? That would put them in the first apron by itself, basically.
And it all comes back to how I initially felt when Jonathan Kuminga first came up, what feels like 3 years ago, and really it's only been about 3 months ago. My initial thought, the first thing I said on these airwaves is that if you add in Jonathan, you can pull the tape. If you add in Jonathan Kuminga, you are, in a way, starting some version of a rebuild, because I don't know why Domantas Sabonis would want a 22-year-old that needs a lot of runway. We talked with the roundtable, and I believe it might have been Brendan Nunez who said, hey, I think we could actually see it working in some capacity just based on Kuminga's ability to get to the hoop. But I said, that's all fine and good. I don't see how that makes a ton of sense. It doesn't make a ton of sense time-wise. And to your point, Kyle, monetarily, it probably wouldn't make a lot of sense either. And that's where I was from the beginning of this conversation. You add Jonathan Kuminga, DeMar DeRozan's clearly gone, but it might mean the end of a Domantas Sabonis as well, eventually.
Yeah.
You can't pay all these guys.
Well,
or you don't. You can. I don't think they want to.
Do you want to pay? And again, there's other options. They could do the LaVine opt-out and extend thing that we've talked about before. They can get short-term relief, but I guess it would then be a question next summer of, A, can you afford to essentially be at the first apron with LaVine, Sabonis, Monk, Kuminga, Keegan, Keon, and Schroeder. I mean, we'll see how next season goes once we get there. But to your point, if those are the 7 guys that are making $200 million combined, they got to talk to Domantas Sabonis and say, hey, this is what we got right now. Maybe LaVine's going to be gone in a year, but this is what we got.
Yeah.
Do you want to sign up for this for the next 4 to 5 years?
And maybe the answer is yes, and they find a way to figure it out. But there's only so many things that they can accomplish, and there's only so many things that they can avoid. And when you look around at other first apron teams in the league, and then you look at the Kings, and you look at their win totals, and you look at the Kings' win total, even if they add in Jonathan Kuminga this season, it was never about, and I've been accused of kind of protecting ownership, and I've really said it's really just my opinion on it. I don't think that you pay the luxury tax to get into the playoffs. I've always felt that way. You pay the luxury tax just like what the Pacers were going to do. Now, they went back on that once Tyrese Halliburton got injured and they lost Miles Turner. But that's how I see this thing happening. You have to exceed the money that I'm spending to prove that I should spend more money. I can't spend luxury tax for y'all to be a 6 seed and lose in the first round. Then that's dipping into the playoff revenue in the first place. So that's how I felt, whether that's about the Kings or any other team. You don't typically get into the luxury tax and talk apron to get into the playoffs. I know it's the West and I know it's tough, but that's not normally how it goes and what you do. DeMar DeRozan details. Let's discuss